Hello, everyone. Olivia Reiner here at Lambeau Field for Packers News with the one and only Pete Dougherty, who's...
There's two. There's another one who lives in Green Bay, and I used to get phone calls from him
No
all the
way.
time.
All right. Well, you know what? Maybe that Pete Dougherty will join in on our
we can only
Facebook
hope.
Live.
Yeah, I think he still lives up here. So.
Oh, it'd be good to see you there. We're here. Packers Falcons in just an hour and a half, a little bit under an hour and a half, actually. We're a little bit, hello everyone. We're a little bit blown out. We're right in front of the window. It is nice and cold today. No snow. We had some snow last weekend.
We did.
Gonna be a little bit warmer for you guys if you're heading to the game at some point. Hopefully you're already here because we're getting pretty close.
Here we are.
Yes. So we're gonna go over inactives to start, as we always do. And let's see what we got here for you today. We got Tim Boyle, Natrell Jamerson, Lane Taylor, Byron Bell, Brian Balaga, Kendall Donnerson, and James Looney. If any of those names stand out to you, it's going to be the three O-line starters. It's a pretty big deal.
That's a lot. That's I haven't counted up. I think they only have 9 offensive linemen on the roster. So, yeah, that's a lot. Balaga, especially at right tackle, where Jason Spriggs will be playing, and I think everybody who follows this team knows the struggles that he's had for 2 3/4 seasons. So they're probably going to have to they're going to at least want to run the ball a fair amount and get the ball out fast if you're Aaron Rodgers. Because the rush is going to be coming, and they know the Packers are a wounded dog on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm. We're seeing that we have, here we go. Our connection is good. Hello, we can see your comments now. We were having some issues. Hopefully you heard us there. We're getting some predictions in. People are making theirs. What was your prediction?
Pack by 31. Wow.
Lloyd, you're feeling bold today.
He is. I think I picked the Packers by a field goal. I saw this in a tweet last week. I think since 03 teams who have had fired their coach in midseason, they were 9-13 or 10-13 or something, which is actually pretty good, going off the assumption if you're firing your coach, you're a bad team. So to be close to 500, so I think probably what happens is they come out loose. The specter of all the questions about the coach are gone. That whole thing is gone. So that's why I picked the Packers, just because I just thought they'd come out loose and just play a pretty decent game. I'm guessing these are short-term effects. It's not like it's if you did this in the third game, it would last for 13 games. But for a week, I think it'll help them.
Would you expect to see that the Packers are going to come out harder this game to sort of make a statement saying, hey, we weren't the problem?
Yeah, that's you would think so. Now, you never know how things are going to go. You expect a high-scoring game, you get low-scoring, all that. But just from some people I talked to in the league, that was their thinking was, guys are going to want to show it wasn't me.
Mm-hmm. Brad wants to know if we're going to see more Robert Tonyan today and going forward.
I would assume so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
He was kind of quiet last weekend, and we haven't seen a lot of him lately.
And he can, young legs, he can run. He's not a rookie. He's a first-year guy. He was on their practice squad for a lot of last year. But he flashed a lot. I know you weren't here for training camp, but he flashed a lot during training camp. Had a great chemistry with Tim Boyle. I would think, I think he played 8 or 9 snaps last week. I would think they'd want to get him out there for at least 20 this week if they can. And with Jimmy Graham with that broken thumb, what good does it do to play him 40 or 50 snaps when you're not playing for the playoffs now?
Yeah, no, I think that was a question we certainly had last weekend, but we did see quite a bit of Jimmy Graham regardless.
We did. Tough to block and catch with one hand.
Yes, no, can't do it all. I saw Jay had asked a question. Good question. Will Mike McCarthy be watching this game today?
I was thinking about that after I got up this morning, and I have no idea. I could see that he just wouldn't be able to resist, and this is his team, and it's been his team for 13 years, and the other part of him might be, I just want to break from it for now. My guess is he will be unable to resist, but that's just a wild guess. Great question, and I don't know if we'll ever know the answer. I don't know if he would admit to watching it, even if he did.
Let's see. Someone just asked about Aaron Jones disappearing. Are we going to see more Aaron Jones and a bigger emphasis on the run game under Phil Bin this week?
That seems to be the assumption. He's a former offensive line coach, that he'd stick with the run longer. Now, you never know once he's actually called the plays. He's never been a play caller, except going back to, what did he say, Northeastern?
Northeastern, 1996.
Yeah, how many years
How
ago
old was I, Pete?
Were you even alive?
I was alive,
Okay.
believe it or not.
That was the year the Packers won the Super Bowl that year. So I was doing what we're doing right now, except there was no Facebook Live back then.
we're introducing something a little bit new. Paul wants to know, will we see better chemistry with the young wide receivers with McCarthy gone? Will McCarthy's presence or lack thereof impact how the wideouts perform?
I don't know that it will affect the wideouts so much. The question I'm wondering is how it affects the quarterback and whether he plays any differently. Does he try to get the ball out quicker? Does he play better? How much reign does he have? How much more say does he have or less say does he have in the game plan and the play calling and all that? I think it's more him than it would be whether the trust with the receiver. It's just whether the quarterback plays better.
Speaking of the quarterback, Jeremy wants to know if Deshaun Kaiser will get an extended look at some point during the remainder of the season. Someone asked Philbin at his press conference when he became the interim head coach whether or not Aaron was going to be the QB going forward, and he was pretty emphatic that he would be. So he didn't make it seem like he was going to be letting off of that anytime soon.
And they would never reveal that. And somebody asked me that question earlier this week. I said I think they'll just play Rodgers out. This was on a radio show, and this guy thought that after maybe 2 games that they'd put Kaiser in. I'm guessing they have Rodgers play it out, unless if Bakhtiari gets hurt, then maybe I'd think twice about that.
Now
hurt bad enough to not play. He's got a knee injury.
That's yes, but he is active today. One of the few linemen.
And that's the biggest position, and that's their best guy. So if both him and Bulaga aren't playing, then maybe you do have to consider sitting down Rodgers just so you don't get him killed back there.
Mm-hmm. So two folks that we do have, the Packers have starting that were not. One of them was not active last week, and actually a week before that, and then one of them who got injured in practice. So Bashaud Breeland is active today, and Hunter Bradley, who was hurt and who was on the injury report earlier this week, is active. So kind of just out of curiosity, what do you think would happen if their long snapper was not active?
Well, if they thought he wasn't going to play, they'd have brought somebody in. So they figured he's going to play, but they can get hurt during the game, or they can aggravate the injury during the game. And I'm not sure. I don't think I know who their emergency snapper would be. It's usually a tight end, sometimes another offensive lineman. I don't know if Lane Taylor's. I don't know who it would be.
Lane Taylor's not active.
No, that's right. So it couldn't be him. Corey Linsley. Has Corey Linsley ever done any of that?
Well, maybe he should start learning.
I don't know. Maybe it's Robert Tonyan. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting bet. Alas, they don't have to worry
Somebody
about that.
was asking about what happens. I couldn't see the whole question, but it was what happens if they go down and beat Chicago. I'm guessing that the rest of it was about Philbin. I'm wondering the same thing, because you would think Philbin's chance of getting the job are pretty slim. But what if the quarterback just goes off for the next month here? Now, winning today against an Atlanta team that's just as disappointing as the Packers are, as Dennis Krause called it, the disappointment bowl. It's just, what if they go down to Chicago and play great and play against a really good defense and win? Then maybe you have to seriously consider Philbin as a candidate. Now, what are the chances of that happening? Not very good, but then I thought there was almost no chance that they would lose Arizona either, and we all saw what happened last week.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't think Mike McCarthy was going to get fired in season.
In season,
yes.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know what your opinion on that was. I thought it was the right move, a merciful move for both parties, and whatever Paul was cast over the organization and in the locker room because of the struggles and because everybody knew the coach was probably going to get fired. Now at least all that's lifted. So for the final month of the season, you've got a kind of a cleaner, fresher environment in the locker room.
Saw someone ask about Jake Kumaro, who is active today, and asking him if he had similar traits to Jordy Nelson.
I can't remember what Kumaro's 40 time is. He's not as big. I think Nelson was a full 6'3". He's not as athletic or fast. So I don't see that great a similarity. And not that because Kumaro's not small. I think he's over 200, and I think he's like 6'2". But Jordy Nelson was a really, really good athlete, and in his prime was a pretty fast guy. I don't think this guy has that kind of speed. But he does seem to be a guy the quarterbacks all trusted when he was healthy. So I would think he'll play some more this week and get a few more targets.
Going back to the Philbin future discussion, sort of what his future is like here in Green Bay, someone had suggested that they think that Philbin will stay next year and stay as offensive coordinator, and perhaps the Packers would find a new defensive coordinator. Do you see Philbin staying would it be possible if Pettin left that Philbin would even stay, or do you think that a new head coach would want to get rid of both of them?
I would, if the new head coach is a defensive head coach, you probably can't rule out that they would keep Philbin. One school of thought would be you want to just start from scratch, get a whole new thing going here. I was talking with an assistant coach in the league who was with Denver when Peyton Manning went there. And their first 3 years, they ran Manning's offense from Indianapolis. And then the next year, Kubiak brought in his own offense. And this guy said Manning, really, even a guy who played in the league that long, really struggled. So he thinks there's an argument for keeping the system the same. My guess is they won't. But if they hired a defensive coach, you can't rule out the possibility that they'd keep Philbin, especially if they do beat Chicago. If they play really good offense this final month, then maybe that's something they'd consider. But a defensive coach is going to want to keep his own system, so I would think Pettin would be gone if they hire a defensive coach.
Speaking of future in Green Bay, I believe Joe wanted to ask about Kevin King and what his future will be like in Green Bay, considering both of his seasons ended with him on the IR.
He's on a rookie contract, so he's not very expensive, even as the first pick of the second round. He's a really talented guy, and when he plays and Jair Alexander play together, they get stops. They can make plays on the ball, but he's, like you said, Joe, he's missed a ton of games. They can't count on him, but there's no reason to not bring him back, and maybe he'll learn something about keeping his body healthier in the off season to help him during the season. But he's on a rookie contract, so he's cheap, so there's no reason to cut him. I just wouldn't bank on him being healthy all next season if you're the Packers.
Mm-hmm. As we mentioned earlier in our Facebook Live, Bashaud Breeland, cornerback, is active today. What have you made of his season? We've only gotten a few sporadic looks at him. He's been here, he's been injured, he's been back.
I think somebody's asking about connection problems or buffering. It looks like it's been going back and forth where the connection's low but not gone, so that's probably why you're getting that. We're at the stadium. There's probably a lot of people using their phones. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, we're talking. No, thank you guys for.
Oh, it's Bashaud Breeland.
Bashaud Breeland, yes.
Yeah, they like him, and it's for them it's too bad that he's missed so many games. Another guy, they would have liked to get a good long look at. I would think, I don't know if they were asking about his long term or not. I would think they'd at least look into re-signing him. I can't imagine it'd be very expensive with his injury history this year.
Jason wants to know, I believe, if Mike Daniels is playing. Mike Daniels is on IR.
He is. He's finished for the season.
Yes. So I believe they have Kenny Clark now is the starting defensive end, filling that spot. And Tyler Lancaster is listed as the first-string nose tackle.
Yeah, and they played a nickel. Well, actually, they had been using a lot of 3 defensive linemen and 1 outside linebacker. But when they play their nickel, which is still their most common defense, it's 2 defensive linemen anyway. So that's usually going to be Lowry and Kenny Clark, you would think.
Mm-hmm. The Packers called up Adam Pankey yesterday, who plays both guard and tackle. At least that's what they list him as.
Now we know why.
There we go. Yep. We wonder if there was like a little Easter egg there. If they were saying, maybe we're not so sure about the health status of our O-line heading into Sunday. And now we know. If you are joining us, we are down Taylor, Balaga, and Bell. So pretty substantial loss. We were talking about
3 starters, yeah.
3 starters. We were talking about how last weekend the Cardinals were down 4 of their 5 starting O-linemen.
And then they lost one during the game, too. I think they lost the 5th during the game.
Yeah, so...
And they won the game, so I guess there goes that excuse for the Green Bay Packers.
That's true. Yeah, no, that cannot be an excuse for them.
A couple more, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yep. Paul wants to know if there's any possibility that the Packers will cut Balaga at the end of the season.
I would think there's a great possibility of that. He's been a good player for him. When healthy, he's been a very good player for him, but... His body is just giving out on him, and I would be really surprised if they didn't move on there.
Mm-hmm. Muhammad has not many good things to say about Matt Ryan. Doesn't think he's going to have a good game today. What do you make of Matt Ryan's season so far? I know we've talked about the Falcons season as a whole being a disappointment.
I haven't seen a lot of them, and to be honest, with everything that's been going on here, it's not like I've taken this real close, hard look at the Atlanta Falcons. I was just talking with one of their beat writers, Daryl Ledbetter, who used to work for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, as a matter of fact. He's a friend of all of ours, and asked him what was going on with that team. He said it was basically the injuries on defense just killed them. So everybody who thinks that the Packers getting killed by injuries, actually they weren't until late in the year. The Atlanta Falcons are a team that had their season kind of killed by injuries because they lost Deion Jones, who's one of their best 2 or 3 defensive players, and Keanu Reeves, I think it is. He's probably one of their 3 or 4 best defensive players. So they lost those 2 guys. I think in the first 2 weeks of the season. Jones is now back. He's just been back for a couple weeks, but he said that's been the biggest problem. Then their offensive line got old. So I'm not sure it's been as much Matt Ryan as these other factors.
It's always multifaceted.
It is.
They say.
It is.
Riley wants to know, I feel like everyone always wants to know about Nick Perry's future here in Green Bay.
Same as Brian Bulaga, I'd find it really hard to believe they'd bring him back just because he just has been unable to stay healthy, and you can't pay a guy that kind of money. And even if you're paying him less than that, if he's missing 2/3 of the games, McCarthy would always say the most important ability is availability.
Yeah, very true. If you can't play,
Yeah,
what good are you?
What good are you? Yes, exactly. So that's why we show up when we're not feeling so great.
Yes, exactly. We always put in our
Gotta play
best
hurt.
effort. You got to do what you got to do. Great. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We love hearing from you, and, of course, we love hearing from where you guys are from, too. It's always cool to see
all over the world. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's really cool. I will be back post-game, not with Pete, unfortunately, but we will have Ryan Wood with us, so be sure to come back after the game to our Facebook page. We'll be going live again to chat about the game, and, we'll see you then. Thank you, guys, for bringing your questions, and we will talk to you very, very soon.